So here we are, I'm Kevin McNally, I play Mr. Gibbs in Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'm here to answer all your questions frankly, as honestly and as comically as possible. So would anyone like to start the proceedings off by starting me off with a good question? Yes, sir.
All right. When you played Frank in Supernatural, we never see his body.
Yeah.
We don't believe Frank is dead.
No.
No.
Because he would be the kind of person who just filled his trailer up with blood and make it look like he died so he could get away.
I believed that for about 2 seasons, but since the phone hasn't rung yet to ask me to come, I'm now believing I really screwed up and did get eaten by a Leviathan.
Oh, no.
Really? Well, I hope you're true, because I think that's a very, very good show, and I couldn't have enjoyed playing Frank Devereaux anymore, because he's such a crazy son of a bee. What a wonderful part to play. I mean, from the moment that I picked the script up, I had no confusion at all about what he was going to be like. You know, it just leapt off the page that he was crazy, paranoid, a survivalist, believed all sorts of crazy things, but also believed a lot of true things as well. I'm glad you like that one. Anybody else got any questions about pirates, maybe? Yes, hello, you at the back there.
Is there any latest developments for the new Pirates movie?
Oh, you mean you don't know? Does anybody know what's happening about the new Pirates film?
Yes.
It's in Australia. When does it start shooting?
Next month.
Next month? Who's going to be in it?
You.
Me? That's all you need to know, really, isn't it? I have to tell you, I am frequently asked, and have been over the last 4 years, as the rumors about a new pirate film has come up. And something happens to me occasionally that I like to give what I think is a very funny answer to. Because people come up and say, hi, you know, is there going to be a new pirate film? And I say, yes. And they say, is Johnny Depp going to be in it? And I say, no, it's just me. I mean, I really appreciate my role, but I think just me wandering around being drunk wouldn't be a good 2 hours movie. Yes, you at the back there in the of West Ham United, yes, that's what it is. I actually grew up in Birmingham, so we have a team called Aston Villa that has similar colours, so I just felt a bit sick for a moment there.
My question is regarding the preparation for the Pirates films. How much did they actually go into the history of actual piracy and actual influential pirates throughout time to kind of help you, kind of help all of you in a sense adapt to your roles?
It's funny, isn't it? Because I don't know, my generation, when I was very young, pirate films were quite popular. I was very young actually, but we used to watch them on television. They'd be about 10 or 15 years old, and a famous actor called Tyrone Power and Errol Flynn played a lot of pirates. So my generation, people like me and Geoffrey Rush, grew up with a sort of an automatic knowledge about the history of pirates. We knew all their names and we knew who they were. So we didn't need to do too much research. I have to tell you that I'm a bit of a history buff actually, and I went up to a producer on the last film and said, you do realize that the flag that Captain Barbossa is flying in this, what is supposed to be set, was supposed to be in about 1780. I said, the flag at the back, the Union flag, did not exist until 1815. And he said, I don't care. Because he said, we're in our own invented universe and we can sort of take what we like. I mean, it's interesting that the period we're talking about is also probably about 20 years before the East India Trading Company would have been uniformed men. You know, they would have been much more motley group of sort of mercenaries, really. So they play fast and loose with the history. So it's not really a history show. And I'm if anybody was at the Pirates thing yesterday, I don't want to bore you, but my preparation was drinking alcohol all my life. Yes, anybody else? Yes, you at the back there.
With regards to your accent, how long did it take you to prepare for your accent, and what did you use to kind of base it on?
Pirates traditionally went to the Caribbean by leaving the west coast of England and the west coast of Ireland. I am fortunate that my father had an Irish accent, quite a strong Irish accent, And my mother came from the port of Bristol, which is where pirates, and Liverpool as well, but pirates mainly came from Bristol, and her accent was a Bristol accent, which is sort of like that. And so I thought if I sort of did an impersonation of my dad and my mom, then I'd sort of sound quite piratey. And interestingly enough, a lot of people in this country are surprised when they see that I'm English, because they believe that I'm American, because there is a lot in that sort of West Country and West Coast and Irish accent that is, of course, the root of your accents. I must tell you something funny. When we read the read-through of the first movie, I had the first line of the film, and so I said, the little girl was singing yo ho ho ho, and I said, "Quiet, Missy. Cursed pirates are sailing these waters." And Geoffrey Rush looked over at me aghast and he said, the scene went on with somebody, he said, "That's exactly the accent I was going to do." But as we didn't meet in the first film, it didn't matter. The shit really hit the fan in number three, when he had to say to me something like, "The Green Flash. Have you ever seen The Green Flash, Mr. Gibbs?" And I said, "Yes, I think I've seen my fair share." And he said, "We've got to stop this." He said, "Somebody's always got to speak in between us, so that the audience don't realize we're doing exactly the same performance." So he said to me, "What can I do if anybody ever spots this?" And I said, "Well, I always tell people that I have got my accent because I had a mother from Bristol and a father from Ireland. So I say, why don't you tell everybody that you had a mother from Ireland and a father from Bristol, and that's a completely different accent." So now that's what he does. Any more for any more? What about our newcomers?
I just.
This is really entertaining. You should all turn around that way and look at him. Yes, my darling.
Hello. Hi. I wanted to know could you tell us a little bit of how you got into acting and how, like, I don't know, any tips for anybody that would like to get involved in acting?
I don't know about tips, but I'll tell you exactly how I got into acting.
Okay.
I remember it very clearly. I was sitting at school. I must have. Hello there. Come in. A pirate, Captain America, Spider-Man, a Wolverine, and the lady in a hat. I've just been asked how I got into acting, and I'm about to tell you. So I was at school. I was about 8 years old, and we were doing a maths class, at which I was, and still am, famously bad. And so I was sitting there thinking, I can't do any more of this multiplication and this. And I was just sort of staring around like this. And the teacher did something very strange. She went up on the blackboard and she wrote some words. And I remember to this day what the words were. They were, "My sunbeams are dancing in the meadow below, where daisies and tulips and buttercups grow." Well, I thought the woman was having a stroke or had gone mad. And then she did something really weird. She rubbed it out. And then she said, "Okay, class, pay attention, please." She said, "Can anybody tell me what I just wrote on the blackboard?" And because I hadn't been doing my maths, I said, "Yes, you wrote, 'My sunbeams are dancing in the meadow below, where daisies and tulips and buttercups grow.'" And she said, "Very good, you've got the lead in the school play," because she knew that I could read lines and remember them. So for me, acting was a reward for having no concentration or application whatsoever. The truth about advice about young people wanting to get acting is I think it's essential to train, or at least take classes, and then to bear in mind for the rest of your life to be very well prepared when you go in on a set, and also then be prepared to be flexible, so that you go in with something you've really worked hard and prepared, but then if the director goes, "Meh, I don't like that," you can do something else.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
So as an actor, you've had to repeat lines over and over and over again.
A sickening repetition, yes.
So, comedic moments in films that you've acted in, are you just so sick and tired of hearing the lines that you don't find them funny anymore?
Do you mean doing them or watching them?
Either one.
Well, doing them, you don't get sick of it because you're aiming to get it right. You know, you want it to be the very best it can be. You can get a little bit tired of it when you think that you've got it, and you have to do it again for some other reason because somebody else is being an idiot. You know, I mean, or some, you know, very often in our case, animals, you know, not getting it right. The amount of times we have to do stuff because the monkey loses concentration is just unbelievable. As far as looking back at it, I mean, I do watch everything I do, but you know, I don't watch it more than once, because it's quite interesting. Whenever I go with my kids to see, particularly the Pirates films, you know, they were a bit younger then. It's not as much fun for me. You know, somebody once said being in a Disney film isn't like watching one. Do you know what I mean? So because I know what's happening next, so I don't well, in some cases, my scenes I know what's happening next, but it's, you know, it rather takes it away if you know the plot of the film when you go to see it. I'm the sort of biggest self-spoiler alert you can possibly have. In fact, my kids, I remember saying to me, stop nudging me and saying, oh, you like this bit. Any more? Yes, young man.
So, you were in Phantom of the Opera.
Yes.
Gerard Butler. I know, did he have a theater background? I don't know if he did, but I mean...
I don't think so. I think he was television, I think.
I felt a lot of people, you know, recognized him from 300.
Right.
And then when you I know, at least for me, when I realized, oh, he was the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera.
Right.
Like, were you anywhere, like, surprised at his singing capability or whatnot, or anything like that?
What singing capability? All right, this strictly stays in this room. Apart from all of you are videoing it. I was in a dressing room at Pinewood Studios, and the room above me, and I like to go and sleep when I'm not working, you know, and I wasn't able to because the room above me was the rehearsal room for that. And I heard Gerald singing, and I thought, wow, that's, you know, it's not a natural choice, because he's an actor, not a singer. And I was quite surprised when I saw it that, I mean, it's a good choice to have a really strong, good-looking actor with a, you know, who can sort of do actory singing. But I thought it might be a bit of a disappointment for people who love the show, because it's a big sing, that show, isn't it? And who had heard very, very musical voices singing it. So it was sort of an odd choice, I think. I think the film still did reasonably well. But I would have either, you know, did what they did in the 50s when they, you know, they got Natalie Wood in West Side Story, but, you know, they got a singer to sing it for her, you know. So I don't know why. Have you had an accident? Oh no, it's a Comic-Con, isn't it? How are you? So I don't know why they didn't do that, or cast a singer-performer, because heaven knows if you've got a Broadway in the West End of London, there are plenty of wonderful actors who have great voices and can sing. I hope that doesn't go viral. Gerald would kill me. He's a big bloke, you know. Any more? Yes, darling.
On the set, did you guys use like real, kind of like authentic props for Pirates of the Caribbean? Like, was any of this?
Yeah, they're very authentic, and particularly the weaponry is very authentic, and it can be quite scary, because I remember I wasn't so shocked in the other films because I'd sort of got used to it by then, but there's a big fight at the end of the first film, and it's got guns blazing, and Jerry Bruckheimer very much wants to still make analog films, you know. If you cut a boat in half in a Bruckheimer film, it's a boat getting cut in half, you know, it's not CGI. I mean, we use CGI to smooth around the effects, but the actual things that happen, so you're actually standing on a boat with 14 cannon going off, and it can be, and stuntmen flying everywhere, and it can be quite disturbing. There is, however, one story I can tell you that really backfired on me. When we first went out to LA to start preparing for the film, they had a pirate boot camp, and one of the things that they would teach us is how to sword fence, and I've never been particularly good at sword fencing. And I was younger and a bit more arrogant, and I said, look, I won't bother with this. I said, my character's drunk all the time, and whenever there's a fight, he just goes down below and gets drunk, so I won't bother with this. And they said, oh, you think you should? It'll be fun. I said, no, it won't be fun. It's horrible. It gets sweaty. I'm not doing it. So It comes to about 4 months later, and we're shooting the end of the film. And the director, Gore Verbinski, is looking really worried. And I say, Gore, what's the matter? And he said, I think I've got a problem. I said, what is it? He said, well, I'm staging a battle between two ships. On one ship, there are 80 immortal pirates. And on the other is you, Orlando, and Kira. I said, so what do you think? He said, I think Gibbs is going to have to kick ass. And I said, I didn't actually go to the boot camp. I don't know how to sword fence. And he said, well, you're going to learn by this afternoon. So they taught me how to sword fight within the space of about 2 hours. And I think I must have killed about 140 pirates in that fight. So there's another bit of advice. If you're offered a class, always go to it. You could look like an idiot later. Anybody else? What about our newbies over here? Spider-Man, do you want to ask me anything? Captain America? Oh, another one from the front. Yes, thank God for you.
What is your favorite scene of Pirates of the Caribbean? Both one that you're not in and that you are in.
The favorite, my favorite scene, because it actually, this is a fun film to be in, but I actually found it really moving and spooky, because the director actually, when we shot it, he played this wonderful music by Arvo Part. He said, we'll get this really great music going and everyone will get into it. It's when we go to Tia Dalma's shack at the end of the second movie, and she says, do you really want to go to the end of the earth for Witty Jack? And we all go, aye. I said, well, there's only one man who can do it. And then Barbossa comes down the steps. That always sent a chill up my spine every time he came down those steps. I absolutely adore that. Apart from scenes that I wasn't in, well, I never read them, and I go to sleep during the film. So if I can remember one. Oh, yes, my absolute favourite scene is Jack and Elizabeth Swann getting drunk on the island. That's my favourite scene that I'm not in. Do you know that scene actually won an award in England? I mean, not the film, but that scene. It was voted best scene in a film that year. Isn't that weird? And I was, actors can be a bit self-centered and arrogant, and when it said the drinking scene, I thought it meant the scene where me and Jack Sparrow have a drink at the beginning of the film when he recruits me, and I went home and told my wife I'd won an award. That's completely wrong. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Another question. Had you ever been on the ride before you had taken part in any of the films?
That is a great question. I had never been to Disneyland, but in 1999, my daughter had an operation which meant she couldn't fly. So we thought, what do we do for our holidays? And we said, we'll go to Disneyland Paris. And frankly, I was a little bored. We were there for 5 days, and we should have gone for 3 days, and it was a nightmare, and the kids were hysterical all the time, and they were either going up or coming down from a sugar rush or, something. So I was a little bit hacked off, to tell you the truth, and I didn't pay much attention. They just say, all right, we'll go here. So, cut to filming Pirates of the Caribbean, and we start out, and I think, this all seems vaguely familiar. And I phone up my daughter and say, have you ever heard of this Pirates of the Caribbean ride thing that I'm making this film about? She said, yes, Dad, you took us on it 4 times. Oh, yes, they're all coming back to me now. Anybody else? You first, who's nearer me. That's you.
What do your kids think about the whole franchise of Pirates of the Caribbean? Are they really into it, or?
It's really a hard question to answer that, because I've always been amazed at how cool they are about it. Because they were absolutely, but my daughter and my son, when the first one came out, he was 6 and she was, she must have been 12. So they are absolutely at the age but it was always part of their life. So I hear them casually telling people about, having a sword fight with Barbossa on the Black Pearl, and not understanding why people are going, what? Didn't you hear me? I said, I'm having a sword fight with Barbossa on the Black Pearl. But so I'm sort of amazed at how sort of easily they deal with that. Just because it is such an amazing film for that generation, you know. I think they're a bit bored with it now. The only thing my daughter's interested in is the first thing she does when I tell her we're doing Pirates 5 is she says, when am I coming to Australia? That's the only thing she's interested in. Yes, there was a lady at the back there.
You said that you filmed most of it on the ship. How was it like with the cast being seasick? Was there like a lot of that? And did you
shocking.
have to like cut?
Shocking. It was awful. You're on the boat for 16 hours a day. They're not really proper ships, so they don't cut through the water properly, so they bounce a lot. You've got them serving up really crappy food about 3 times a day, which gets left around and starts to smell. There's 2 porta potties at the back of the loo, which is the only way you can go to the loo, which fill up by about 11 o'clock, by the way. So it's one of the most disgusting experiences you can have, and I loved the 4th film because we only spent 1 day on a boat. But I mean, like the 2nd film, we were at sea. I mean, we were at sea for weeks and weeks on end. And it wasn't, we used to go out 20 miles to shoot because you didn't want any land. And it was only after about 3 months somebody said, why don't we just go out 20 feet, shoot one way, turn the boat round and shoot the other. They went, what a good idea. There was somebody else with their hand up back there. Yes, sir.
Which ship do you like the most in the Pirates of the Caribbean series?
Sorry, say again?
Which ship do you like the most in the Pirates of the Caribbean series?
Well, I really like the Flying Dutchman because I think it's cool and I love those spinning cannon at the front. But I suppose my heart will always be with the Black Pearl. And I'm desperately hoping I can get it out of that bloody bottle. Johnny's been practicing this for 4 years now, and I still haven't found a goat, so I don't know. Yes, sir.
This might be a bit of a strange question, but you speak of the deplorable conditions on the ship, when we're not recording, but when we're filming. Do you think in any way that might have actually lent credence to the actual almost authenticity of the film, considering that was almost...
Oh yeah, I mean, within an hour of being on the ship, you don't have to pretend that you're a grubby pirate. You're a filthy old pirate. So yeah, I think it does lend a certain authenticity. It also means we move like we're on a ship. And you're rapidly taught by the people who run the ships. There are rules on a ship, like, one hand for yourself, one hand for the boat is a very good rule, so you don't fall over all the time. You always have, one hand with whatever you're doing, and another hand is holding onto the ship. So we have those, although we do sort of try to butcher each other out by, seeing who can do a scene long enough in the biggest swell, without swaying out of shot too much, As you can see, I'm not very good at it, but that's the rum for you. Anybody else? Oh, God, it's all coming at once. Yes.
Were you able to keep anything from the set of Pirates of the Caribbean? Like any props?
Now, was anybody at the one yesterday with me and Marty and Lee? Well, oh great, because good, you don't know the story. I didn't realise this. I went up to the producer and said, the first one, I said, great, and obviously I'd love to take home some of the gold doubloons. And he went, no, you can't. It's property of Disney. So I thought, shit, I thought I could have had one of those. Everybody else, when we finished the movie, said, so how many doubloons did you get? They've all got bags. And I said, but I asked for those, and they said no. And he said, what you do is, in between takes when they're doing the lighting, you just go up, you slip your hand in, get a few, put them in your pocket. And as Lee Arenberg said, by the end of that scene, at the beginning of the scene, that chest is full of gold doubloons. It's about halfway down. Somebody else had their hand up. Yes?
What was your favorite role offer on screen that you played throughout your history?
Well, I mean, I'd have to really say Joshamee Gibbs, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to come and work in America, which I love, come and work and live in America, which I really, really like. I'd still be sitting at home, doing crappy little English shows and getting rained on, basically. So I have to say that, although there have been other roles that I've enjoyed playing as much. But, nothing, an actor through most of his life, moderately successful actors can be probably seen, theatre actors, by about maybe 20 to 30,000 people in their life. Television actors might be seen by the same 2 or 3 million people throughout their life. to know that something in the region of 180 million people watch these films worldwide is a sort of a staggering thought, really. And to also hope and to suspect and know that when you're long gone, there'll be little 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old children who their parents will say to them one day, "Oh, I really think you should watch these films, you're going to really enjoy them." At least that's what I hope the legacy will be. Yes, darling?
Since you do work so many hours a day, is there some times that you go home and you're still in character?
I think if I left Pirates of the Caribbean and went home still in character, I'd probably be arrested. Or locked up. I know what you mean, and that's a question often asked of actors, and actors are a different way. I don't ever, being a sort of a classically trained actor, I don't have to stay in it all the time. I go into it for a take and come out of it again. However, it is true that if I'm playing like a really evil person sometimes, I go home and I'm a little bit snappy with the kids, do you know what I mean? Because I'm not going to take any shit because I'm a baddie, right? Equally, every time I do a pirate film, at some point my wife will say to me, "Do you know, I think you're drinking quite a lot lately." So I mean, there are certain things that you know, that you go with. So yes, to an extent, yeah. Yes?
Two things. One, is there anything you can tell us about the fifth movie, or are you like sworn to secrecy?
I wish I could say it'd be all self-important and I was sworn to secrecy, but they, despite asking for the last 2 weeks, I'm the only person they've forgotten to send a script to. The only thing I can tell you, and because they've done that, the bastards, I will tell you what I know. I was asked last week if I could ride a horse. So it means at some point you're going to see pirates on horses. I don't know how that's going to work out. I hope it's not pirates on horses on boats, because that could be. I know nothing about the script. It's really strange, actually. I was so annoyed for a while, but I'm quite enjoying it now, that because I'm doing this TV show in Virginia. I thought, wouldn't it be great to finish that, get on a plane, go to Australia, and then go, right, what's all this about? You know, and then find out literally and start doing it straight away. That might be quite. I mean, I need a bit of time to learn the lines, if I have any. Maybe they think I'm Mr. Cotton. Maybe they've got it. Yeah.
Can I take a picture of you posting with my flag?
Well, I sorry?
Can I get a picture of you posing with this?
Yes. Can we do it afterwards?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Is there an afterwards? What's the time? Where's my handler?
11. There's still time.
Great.
Still have like 20.
Anybody else? Yes.
Was there a lot of improvisation on the set? Like, was there altering of lines that made it into the movie? That like.
Yes, there are. And I wonder who it is who always is doing it. Oh, that would be Johnny Depp.
I know.
He, what the best for me bit of improvisation in the film is there's a scene when I'm telling Will Turner the sea turtle story. And he's listening and he's going, and then at one point, Johnny walks up and he says, "And where did you get the rope?" And I go, "Oh, that's a good question. I hadn't thought of that." And I look at Johnny and he says something like, "I wove it from human hair." Which is the line. But when it came to it, they didn't shout cut in time, so we said, "I wove it from human hair, from my back." And I just turned to the camera and go, "That just doesn't make any fucking sense." And that's the take they use. So at the end of the take, I turn and grin at the camera, and they keep it in. There's another little list of things they kept in the film that shouldn't be in there. One is that, I'm sorry for all of you who were there yesterday, because you're getting these the second time now, but I have a very strong gag reflex, right? I can't even brush my teeth at the back very well, you know, it's really hard. Going to the dentist is a nightmare. So they make these false teeth for us that look like crap, you know. And so I can't have these things put in my mouth. I'll just throw up over the technician doing it. So we have to trim them down and just do it here. So it means that my teeth are just clinging to the teeth here, because I can't have them at the back. It makes me sick. Unfortunately, it means they're not very stable. And there's a scene in number 3 where Jack comes over the crest in the big ship, and you see us all, and I run forward going, Jack, we've missed you or something. And as I get to the edge of screen, if you watch it in slow motion, you'll hear me go, "Jolop," like that, and my teeth flying out of the screen just before I do. So that'd be something interesting for you to do when you get home. Yes, sir.
Working with Johnny Depp, have you ever had to like improv some scenes?
Do you know, with comedy, if you start improvising too much, you often don't get the joke because it's all about timing, and the writers hone the lines really well. And also, it's quite hard to improvise sort of piratey dialogue without becoming repetitive, because they try to research as many interesting words as they can that we maybe don't know or we haven't heard of. So it tends not to be an improvisation. This actually is answering your question too, because I got onto a tangent on teeth for some reason. So it tends not to be an improvisational film. There is, however, whenever you've got the scene, and if you have time, often a director will say, well, let's play around with it a bit now. So you might chuck in some more stuff. And not so much via dialogue, but I understand, although I wasn't there when it was done, but the whole sequence of Johnny, all the Johnnies waking up, that's a really sensible scene in the middle of 3. I think they were making that up pretty much on the spot. As if you couldn't tell. Any more for any more? Yes?
Was there any like actors that you really just stood out to you as being your favorite person to really collaborate with? That really stood out?
Well, obviously Johnny is fabulous to work with. He's such a gentleman, and he's such a wonderful, creative, crazy, zany actor, and he's very respectful of the people he works with. More of an age thing, really. Jeffrey Rush and I get on really well because we have a lot of time off between shooting, and Jeffrey and I are absolute fanatics over word and letter games. So we will play these ludicrously elaborate word games with each other, and we give each other books about language and stuff. So we bond very much on that level. Obviously, in the first 3 films, Mackenzie Crook and Lee Arenberg and I tended to hang out a lot together, so they were really good guys. Marty, the guy who played Cotton, David Bailey. I was very fond in the first film of a young actress, I don't know what she ever went on to do, her name was Zoe Saldana. I really quite liked her, and I love her as Uhura in the Star Trek films. So I hung out with her a fair amount, and that would be about it really. I couldn't stand the rest. Yes, dear.
If you didn't play Mr. Gibbs, what other pirate or non-pirate would you play in the film? What role?
I've always thought I would like to have had a bash at Lord Cutler Beckett. It's Lord Cutler Beckett now, actually. That sort of performance, I'd quite like to. That sort of quite sleazy English, upper-class twat. Or Barbosa, of course, would be nice, and then I get paid more as well. Any more? Yes.
At what point in Pirates 2 did you learn that Barbosa and Jeffrey Rush was going to be coming back? I mean, I'm assuming that was at the end of the script. Once you read it, what was your reaction to it and such?
When I read that scene, I couldn't. I was reeling from it. Remember, me reading the script is like you first going to see the film. So, for a start, they kill. I thought they'd all gone mad. They kill Captain Jack Sparrow, and the film doesn't end, and we all go off to find this woman. And I'm so thick. I never know who's done it when I watch a thriller. I'm always like, really? It was that crazy person? So I thought, well, where are they going? What are they doing now, for heaven's sake? And then she says, there might be a way. And I think, oh, what, she's magic. Of course, she's got a way to do it. Well, when it was Barbossa who came down the steps, you could have knocked me over with a feather. Because he's dead, for one thing. I thought, hold on a second, he's dead. But I suppose we're a bit like Supernatural. Nobody dies on the show. There is a clue in the movie that's so subtle nobody ever gets. Does anybody know what that clue is?
You see the boots at the when you went to visit her the first time, no? In the
You might
the
see
monkey.
It's
goes
the fact the
back,
monkey
yeah.
runs off, and he runs round the corner. It's the monkey's running to see Barbossa because he's Barbossa's monkey. See, we think about this stuff. We don't just chuck it together, you know. I mean, do we see his boots?
I think so.
Oh, there's two clues there. You got two clues out of me now. There.
Because you see him like the monkey's like standing in the room, I believe, and I think you see like a little piece of the boot, but I'm not sure.
Oh, is that? Oh, you see, I must read these scripts more. I really must. I have no clue what's going on. You know, there was a wonderful time in the third film. It was getting too much being out at sea all the time, so they rebuilt all of the ships, 3 ships, on gimbals so they could move, in the hangar in Palmdale where they made the stealth bomber. This building is so big, it has its own weather systems. We've seen clouds form and it start to rain in the corner of this huge blooming building. And it's all covered in green because it's green screen, they're going to put it all in later. And we're shooting both films back to back. And I come down on the deck one day and we're looking around and Keira Knightley says to me, Kevin, what ship is this? I said, Keira, I don't know which film it is. And it was absolutely true. It turned out it was we were filming episode 3 that day. Any more for any more before I sign this lady or stand with this lady's flag? Yes, you at the back there.
What was it, you mentioned the monkey, what was it like to work with a different monkey running around the set?
Oh, terrible. all of the nicest animals we had were the snakes at Tir Dalna, because they're all nice. It's like that all day. The parrot decided that it was his task to make David Bailey deaf in this ear. So about every 15 minutes, this is David Bailey's ear, right? And I'm the parrot. And the parrot would be looking around, and every 15 minutes it would go, and he's now stone deaf in this ear. The monkeys are a pain in the arse. There's 2 monkeys, there's a male and a female. The female is the acting monkey and the male monkey is the stunt monkey. So if you want the monkey to go run up stuff and grab keys, you get the male one. But if you want it to look cute and do all that thing he does with its face, you get the female monkey. But monkeys have less, they probably became actors the same way I did, by having no concentration in their application. Because they've got the worst concentration of any beast you've ever known. So Geoffrey Rush had a few scenes when the monkey had to run down and get a keys down and do this stuff, and it was 30 takes. And the way they get it to concentrate is there's a woman sits just below Geoffrey with a squirt gun like that. It squirts the monkey in the face to get its attention. Well, 50% of the time she was getting Geoffrey in the face. Which absolutely hysterical. I couldn't stop laughing. But Lee Arenberg said to Geoffrey Rush afterwards, because they did it like 30 times. And finally, and he said to him, why didn't you just lose your temper? That was crazy. He said, the reason I didn't lose my temper, he said, I knew that if I lost my temper, or lost my shit, as he put it, we'd still be out there shooting that scene. I also knew that the print they were going to print is when the monkey got it right, not when I got it right. So I had to get it right every time. And that's a really interesting pressure, isn't it? You know, that, you know, you may be the second highest paid man in the movie, but the monkey trumps you every time. Anybody else? Yes? You get the prize for most questions.
The scene in the third one, when you get kidnapped by the cannibals, and you're in the hanging cages.
Oh,
Can you tell us a bit about that?
We filmed that movie on, it must have been about 5 locations in the Caribbean, different islands, different beaches. And we would travel between the islands on a jet, and we'd have a cargo jet that would bring our sets. And it used to break my heart because that scene, that sequence, little bits of it were filmed on every location all the way through the shoot, from Los Angeles right down to St. Vincent. And whenever we would land the plane, we'd get out on the tarmac and we'd see them unloading the cargo plane, and I would always say, oh my God, they brought the bloody bone cage again. And sure enough, 2 days later, we'd be hanging somewhere, dehydrating. And Marty was the only one small enough to be able to get out in between takes. But we were all just completely trapped in it. There is a very good story about Marty Kleber and the bone cage. The first thing we shot was the swinging. And we shot it in Redondo Beach in California, and they built a huge blue screen, and then they put us on a crane, and we could swim in it so they could put everything in. Now Marty is the worst. He's got the most delicate stomach of any person you know, and about 14 swings in, he goes, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be sick." So they lower the crane, and the crane comes down. And Marty jumped out, and all you could hear was 8 technicians saying, "Not on the blue screen!" So he had to just make it to the edge and hurl it over onto the concrete, so that you wouldn't have a little piece of sick on the cliff when they eventually put the cliff in. And he had to do that and we were, you start off pretty sympathetic, but then, he's going to be sick for the 5th time, and you've got to stop the crane, bring it down, so he can go and puke, not on the blue. And people are like, "Just hold your stuff together, Marty. What are you, a man? Or, oh no, you're a dwarf, that's fine." So because we take the piss out of him mercilessly. That was really, really tiresome being in that thing. It was also very heavy, and we had to carry it a lot, when we were doing the running. Marty being no help at all. Any more?
One question.
What?
I have one question, but it's about this convention. Are you having a good time with this convention so far?
I am having a great time, yeah. What's not to like about a convention? Lots of pretty people in costumes, and I love doing these panels because it's great to get face to face. Yeah. I mean, this is my 7th convention worldwide, and I do them whenever I can. And in fact, it's going to be really nice because my manager has just arranged 6 conventions in Australia, which I've never done a convention down there, so that might be quite cool actually. And it might be good because I think Australia is quite excited about having a pirate film come. I'm a little disappointed because originally we were going to be shooting in Puerto Rico and New Orleans, 2 places I've never been to. And I think that would have been really nice. And there is a sort of a feeling, Australia, that you are the other side of the world. And I mean, there's no coming home at the weekends, you know what I mean? So, but it'll be fun, I'm sure.